Hello everyone and welcome to Singapore for another round of the 2022 GPVWC Formula Sprint 1 Championship. This is round 13. We are into the final quarter of the 2022 Championship and I'm looking forward to a dash or two around the Marina Bay Street Circuit. We're just heading out for the start of qualifying here. There's Owen McGorgy in the Nocturne car. And Nocturne, a very fitting Nova name, Nova car. Nocturne, of course, being his rival team, heading out with Tom Stevens and Moritz Kropp today. But yeah, sorry, what I was going to say is that Nocturne is a very fitting name for this circuit, since the Singapore Grand Prix was the very first nocturnal Grand Prix added to the Formula 1 calendar, and GPVWC has always run this race at night as well, including all of the support categories. Here you see the calendar. As I said, we're into the final quarter of the season. So Singapore starts us off, and then of course we have Japan, Mexico, and Brazil to round out the championship in just a few weeks' time now. Just over a month, I'm afraid to say. So we are nearing the end. But still plenty to play for. The championship's still open. Admittedly, it did extend a little bit. The gap between the top two extended at the last few rounds. But that's not to say that it's over by any means. It's still mathematically open. And with the amount that we've seen happen at Singapore and the other rounds of the championship in the past, it's certainly way too early to give up. Is Gerard Battalla just heading back into the pit lane. Obviously not quite competent enough to go for a full flying lap just yet. Here at Singapore, it's quite difficult to damage your car on the outlap, actually. So if you do that, sometimes it's better to come back into the pits and, you know, have a quick check over. Whoa, that's a big slide for Jake Dennehan, who gets away with it. McGorgy still out there in the Nova car, not Nocturne, apologies about that. And Owen, I noticed having a few shunts in the practice session before this, but that's alright. It's often better to get them out of the way in the practice session so that you know where the limit is for qualifying. And Owen is the fastest of anyone in the first sector so far. Unfortunately today I'm not being joined by Ross McIntyre. He is ill today. He's got a really bad cough and says that it's not worth doing the commentary when he's going to be coughing every 5 seconds. So I hope you're recovering, Ross. Take it easy, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you back next week for the Super League. But I am of course being joined by Szymon Frelik, who is the broadcast director, and is bringing you all of the sights and sounds that you're seeing and hearing right now. McGorgy's second sector, decently quick. We're expecting, well, on the server, on the timing sheet, the fastest laps that have been recorded by any driver up until this point have been mid 144s. So look out for lap times around there, maybe low 144s if people can hook up something special. Use the advantage of the extra rubbered in track. Go faster than they have been doing in practice. McGorgy out to the final corner, and that is a 144.482. So that's about what we'd expect for the fastest opening banker. And then the final flying laps, expect people to maybe take a couple, maybe 2 or 3 tenths off of that for the ultimate pole time. Even so, pretty good opening lap there for Owen McGorgy, and it's faster than the times that he's been setting in practice. A few names that I don't recognise out there today. Gerard Battalla I do know from other places, but I believe this is his first outing in FS1 this year, and yes, it is actually. I've just looked it up, but I don't recognise Errol Bugdeci. I do hope I'm pronouncing that name right, but he is out there in the Friesland racing team car today, and this is probably his first race in GPVWC as a whole, but I will also look that up just to make sure that I'm not getting it wrong, as we see Gerard Battalla now starting his lap. Gerard has done GPVWC competitions in the past, but not for a little while now. I'll look that up while I'm also looking up Errol Bogdaci. But yeah, good to see more people getting involved in this championship. We have 26 cars on the server right now, which is always a good tally. Yes, so Bogdaci's first race was in the Academy Series earlier this year. He's got 3 podiums in the Academy Series so far. No victories just yet, but still feels that he is ready to move up to the GPVWC FS1. So he's making that leap today. Gerard Battalla has been, yes, so he's done FS1 in the past. He did FS1. The last time he did it was 2018. First time 2015. So he had a little stint of a couple of years in GPVWC Formula Sprint 1. He's also done FS2, ITC. He won a race in the Academy Series, and he also did the Vintage Series back in the day. Finished 3rd in the 2016 Vintage Series. That's a throwback for all of you older GPVWC enthusiasts. But yes, this is the first time that we've seen Gerard Battalla in GPVWC since 2018. So welcome back, Gerard, and good luck in the Build Sim car today. Out of the final corner he goes. He's just very nicely showed us around a lap of the Singapore Marina Bay street circuit, and it's well, it's down in 19th right now, so not what he would be hoping for, but keep your eye on that. Jake Dennehan now, fastest of anyone in the first sector. Yet set a lap is Dennehan. Quite a spread out field, I'm noticing already. I feel like the it's mainly at the front it's quite spread out actually. The first few drivers have really extended their gap. They've really put quite a buffer between themselves and the rest of the field at this point. 3rd place is half a second, almost 6/10 back as we speak. So McGorgy and Andre really setting the challenge, throwing down the gauntlet. Dennehan though looks as if he's going to get himself involved in that one, and might move himself up to pole with this lap. It depends on his 3rd sector. There he goes under the grandstand and out towards another one of this track's many chicanes. Over the curbs, that's a lot of curb, taking just as much track as he could. Out through the final corner, I think that was flat out there. And he goes P1 as expected. Oh my goodness, it's 6/10 up. 6/10. I wasn't expecting it to be quite that good, but fantastic lap there from Jake Dennehan. The first lap that we've seen under 1 minute 44. And that is going to be extremely difficult to beat. I reckon Jake may have just snagged pole with that lap, but we are still very early in the qualifying session to be saying that. It's just that you don't normally see gaps quite that big. Anyway, here's Stephen Lexo in the Nova sim racing car. Stephen has been doing well in FS2 so far this season. How did he do in the FS2 race at this track? I'll look that up quickly. 6th in race 1, 11th in race 2. That's not as good as you'd expect from Stephen, so I wonder if he had a couple of issues or something. I wouldn't know, I was way too far back to tell you that. But anyway, Stephen heading through the 3rd sector now. I wonder if this track has corner names. I'll look that up quickly. Unfortunately, a lot of the modern race circuits don't tend to have corner names, which is a shame because it makes it difficult to kind of. Oh, it has a few. Yeah, it has a few. That's good. Oh, big spin for Stephen Lexo. Backs it into the wall, and that was past the pit lane entry there. So he's got to go the entire way around the lap in order to get back to the pits and go for another attempt. So Stephen there not doing himself any favours and may be out of the session with that one. I'm just going to re-watch that on the stream since I was a little distracted. Took way too much inside curb. That's what it was. Actually cut the final corner on the inside there, and the car did not appreciate it much. Got unsettled and spun around, ended up backing straight into the barriers there. Mirko Lucchini out in the Alpha Delta racing car right now. And Lucchini is a driver who has joined the series quite late, has only done the last 2 rounds, and this is by far the best that he's shown in this series so far. Look, Munier now, P12 he goes. I saw that Alex Laho was cheering him on in the YouTube chat earlier on, so look out for Loic, Alex, I'm sure you will be. Currently in P12. Still quite a gap though, long way off the leaders. Owen McGorky's now got himself up to P2. He is just a 10th. Oh, that's what it was actually, because McGorky was already ahead of Andre, but Andre has improved slightly to get himself just within 0.2 of a second behind Owen McGorky now. So Andre slightly closer, still only the top 3, separated by, I mean, never mind half a second, 1 second there, separate just the top 3 and no one else. This is definitely a circuit layout that rewards the best drivers, the most committed drivers. It's all about bravery here. And I would potentially call it the most technical circuit there is on the calendar. It's why you tend to get such big gaps in the field compared to what there would be at a circuit of a similar distance. Remco de Joux, PB Racing, has done a couple of Super League outings so far this year. Stays 17th there, a bit further down than he would have liked. 3.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session now. I'm going to have a quick skim read of the YouTube chat while we're waiting for our drivers to start their final flying runs, the ones that are really going to matter in this session. That's what they're setting up for now. Jake Dennehan exits the pits, and we'll set up for his. Hello Dan Hayek, hello Alex Lahu, Seva Panasenko. My goodness, this is like FS2 meetup here. Is it the real Caitlin Penny commentating? Yes, it is. Hi, Seva. And as Fabian Bali goes for a spin, reversing through the tunnel. That's one way to get out of danger. Good stuff, Fabian. Clonks the wall slightly, but rejoins on his way. Craig Patterson, there's another FS2 ace in the YouTube chat. Josh Downard. It really is an FS2 meetup. Amazing stuff. Amazing. Okay, so time for the last few flying runs now. Massimiliano Roboli is going to start one of his. Another FS2 ace. And Moritz Kropp is on one right now. Moritz Kropp just outside of the top 5. He'll be on the 3rd row of the grid as it stands. The left-hand side of the grid, the side that you start from if you are in an even-numbered grid slot, it's actually not too bad to start from right here, because it's a short run down to turn 1, and then you get the inside line for not just turn 1, but turn 3 as well. And turn 2 is quite a short right-hander, so actually I think it's relatively even, depending on whether you start first or second. It doesn't really matter that much. First, of course, gives you a slightly better run off the line, but not that much. So if you do react slightly quicker from the inside, then you can definitely keep your nose in for turn 1. Murray Watson would so far be on the right-hand side of the grid, the outside line. Normally the right-hand side would be the inside, but this is one of the only anti-clockwise circuits on the calendar. 29 seconds through the first sector, almost exactly there for Amari Watson. That's slightly quicker than what Frank Hamming did last time round. Moritz Kropp also was improving his time, but he has now gone back to the pits. I think he may have teleported back to the pits actually, because he doesn't. Yeah, he won't get another chance now. So Kropp will start 5th at best. Knocked down Frank Hamming on his last timed lap. Watson down again in the 2nd sector. Tom Stevens improving in the 2nd sector, but a couple of tenths down on the leaders in the 1st. What does Watson do? Goes P6, so knocks down Frank Hamming now. And Dennehan has the fastest second sector time of all. Stevens will just about get time for another lap if he can do it. He improves his time but stays 4th. Here's Dennehan now, who was exactly 4 thousandths down in the first sector and 4 thousandths up in the second. Oh, that was a bit too committed there through the... Oh dear, very, very overcommitted indeed. Smashes into the wall, and Dennehan will not be able to improve his lap, but he may not need to because he's still top of the times. And I'm not sure if anyone's actually going to be able to beat him here. McGorky and Andre are out there, but neither of their first sectors are looking particularly competitive compared to Dennehan's. McGorky's maybe. I think McGorky's a lot more likely to do it with that first sector time than Andre is. We're also watching Mercury-Kini, who could throw a spanner into the works if he doesn't do that. Big slide, gets away with it a bit better than Dennehan did, but that could throw his lap away. And it does, very, very far down, I'm afraid, from his... Oh wait, never mind, he goes P8. I have to eat my words immediately. And Stephen Lexo knocks him straight back down to P8 again. McGorky improving on his own personal bests, but not by enough, surely. Surely he's got to pull something really special out of the bag in this final sector if he's going to beat Jake Dennehan. I told you that Dennehan's lap was special when he did it, and I think it's going to be too special for anyone else to quite top. Jake could have gone even quicker if it hadn't been for that mistake. That chicane there. But can McGorgy... Oh, he twitches! No, he can't. He spins it out of the final corner, slides across the line, and does not improve on his final flying lap. There he goes. Loic Mounier goes 11th on his final attempt. Ada Erkan goes 12th on his final attempt. And the last driver out there on a lap is now Vincent Gutt, who is not improving on his own time and may have actually seen the checkered flag. So I believe that qualifying is over, and it has gone the way of Jake Dennehan for TTS Off Racing, followed by Owen McGorky for Nova Sim Racing. I'm now going to check quickly to see if I can see any penalties on the system or anything like that, because that could still affect the order of the race. But I believe that it's going to be Jake on pole, followed by Owen McGorky, Darius Andre, Tom Stevens, and then Moritz Kropp over a second behind, showing you just how spread out the front of the field are so far today. Then it's Amari Watson, Frank Hamming, Stephen Lexo, Mercury-Kini, and Federico Rosso. The second page of the grid shows that Loic Mounier is 11th, followed by Ada Erkan, Menno Klont, Stavros Musaidis, Errol Bugdaichi, Maciej Heiler, Damien Kardash, Vincent Gutt, Remco de Joux, and Fabian Ballet. Pretty good from Bugdaichi actually to qualify in the what would be the points on his debut in FS1. Rafał Lukaszewski, P21, then Perseus Miram, Massimiliano Riboli, Dylan Tarberton, Gerard Batalla, and then Alexander Ragosa, who failed to set a qualifying time. In terms of penalties, there are no grid penalties for this race. There was a time penalty for Maciej Heiler in the last race. Aside from that, a few drivers got warnings, but that was it. And I'm not sure it even cost Heiler a place because he still ended up P6 and P12 in his races last time out. So I think that everything's okay with the order, and that what we see is what we get. That is, of course, unless anyone had a penalty from the previous FS1 races and didn't make it to the last event or something like that. Let's read some more of the chat here. Craig Patson says, nice battle in race 1, Caitlin. Yeah, that was pretty fun. You were definitely faster than me. I think I held you off for a while, but yeah, no, you were definitely faster than me. So I feel like it was just I feel like I was just sort of having fun out there trying to battle with you. But yeah, you got me in the end. Saver Panasenko as well says, if I would have been there, I would have gotten pole. Well, who knows? There's only one way to find out, and that's to turn up to these things. But anyway, hopefully we see you back next time, Saver, and yeah, you'll be able to challenge for pole. So we'll be able to call your bluff potentially. Anyway, since it's only me, and since we still have 9 minutes left in this warm-up session, I'm going to go for a quick break. But don't go anywhere, because we will be back in just a few minutes' time for a 30-lap race with a mandatory pit stop and the grid order that you just saw. But don't go anywhere. Welcome back everyone to GPVWC. We're still here at the Marina Bay street circuit and just finishing up this warm-up session before the start of the 30-lap first race of the championship. In terms of time, if every race of the season was dry, then this one would probably be the longest. Historically, that does tend to be the case anyway. It's a similar length to the other races, but it is the second slowest speed circuit on the calendar behind Monaco, which has a shorter race distance to provide for that. It's tight and it's technical, and it's very obviously a street circuit. The walls are super unforgiving. And I was told before this broadcast started, actually, that we're going to have a bit of a split strategy in terms of the strategy and the tyres. That is indeed according to Toby Davis, the team boss of the Nocturne team, who says that one stops and two stops are going to be very similar, very equal in terms of performance. And he's unsure yet which one his cars are going to go for. At least that's what Toby Davis says, team boss of the Nocturne team. And it will be super interesting to see what the other teams go for and whether we do see those theorized two-stop strategies. Of course, you have to use two different compounds of tyre, and the only other place on the calendar where we've actually seen two stops being viable in the dry was in Hungary, where it was the Nocturne drivers who put on an extra set of tyres and ended up carving through the field and winning both races as a result of doing so. The same could absolutely happen today. And yeah, so Toby said to me, it's kind of like Hungary. And I said, well, I remember what happened in Hungary. Does that mean you're going for a two-stop? And he's like, well, can't tell you yet. So we are going to find out. Checkered flag is now showing on this warm-up session. If you were interested, it's actually Federico Russo at the top of the warm-up times. Not that it matters in terms of the race order. Frank Hamming has just knocked him off his perch, actually. So Frank goes to the top of the session and then does a little practice start on the start-finish straight. In terms of the championship, let me remind you of where we are up to at this point. It is currently Tom Stevens leading the way by 38 points over Owen McGorgy in the Nova car. Then we have Jake Dennehan third in the championship, 29 points back, although he is catching up. Dennehan is on a streak of 5 podiums in a row, with one of those being a race victory. Frank Hamming is fourth in the championship, and then it's Moritz Kropp, Amari Watson, Darius Andre, Alexander Ragosa, Damien Kardash, and Jason Muscat, the top 10 drivers in the Drivers' Championship. And in the teams, Nocturne lead by just under 100 points, ahead of TCS Off Racing, HGP Motorsports, Nova Sim Racing, and Gallery 82 Motorsport. Okay, are the drivers yet out on track? Well, we have switched now to the race session, so the drivers are just teleporting their way onto the grid. And the setup they're on now is locked. They are not able to change their setup from when they started their flying lap in qualifying. And what's also locked is their grid position, so nothing they can do now will change where they're going to be starting the race, unless they elect to start from the pit lane, which actually sometimes people do at street circuits to avoid the chaos which sometimes befalls the drivers at the start of races. Usually only the drivers at the back, though. I never really get it. I feel like you lose so much time by doing so that it's honestly worth the risk of just going to the grid anyway. So here we go on the formation lap now. Jake Dennehan leads us away, and we're about to see the full starting lineup. So here you go then. Jake Dennehan leads from Owen McGorgy and Darius Andre, so 2 TCS offs in the top 4. Then it's Tom Stevens in P4, so the usual suspects occupying the first 4 positions. Moritz Kropp is P5, followed by Amari Watson, then Frank Hamming and Stephen Lexo, so both of the HGP cars are together there. Michael Lucchini P9, then Federico Russo, Loic Munier, and Ada Erkan, who did pretty well in an endurance race that I was watching just last week. Manu Klont P13, Stavros Musadis P14, then Errol Bogdaci making his FS1 debut, and Maciej Heiler in P16. P17 will be Damien Kardash, then it's Vincent Gutt, Remco de Joux, and Fabian Ballet. One of those virtual drivers by TX3 drivers. Rafał Lukaszewski P21, then Persis Miram, Massimiliano Raboli, and Dylan Tarberton. Good to see a Smile Power car out there. Smile Power haven't turned up to every race of this championship, at least not with both drivers. And the final row of the grid is Gerard Batalla and Alexander Ragosa. With that being said, actually, I've just checked the statistics, and a Smile Power car hasn't actually finished a race in a while. The last one to do so was at Hungary race 2. So the last 2 rounds, the last 2 rounds has only been one Smile Power entry, and it's retired every single time. Kasper Michalak hasn't finished a race in donkey's years by the looks of things, so hopefully that team can have better luck today. Wow, Michalak hasn't finished a race since Bahrain. Less about that. Here we go to the grid. Jake Dennehan on the front row alongside Owen McGorgy. And judging by the qualifying times, these two could be in a league of their own today. Watch these two as they fight for the lead in the first few laps. Ada Erkan, the top driver on hard tyres by the looks of things. Remco de Joux and Fabian Ballet also going for that alternate strategy. Everyone in the top 10 was locked into their positions, and Loic Munier elected not to be the lead driver on an alternate strategy. Here we go then, to the grid they go. PB Racing cars starting line astern. And the final car on the grid is Alexander Ragosa, who is now in position. So we wait for the lights. When 5 of them go out, we will be underway. Here we go. Now it's go. So away goes Jake Dennehan, covers off Owen McGorgy immediately. He's got a car length. So Jake Dennehan is going to lead into turn 1. McGorgy second, Andre third, and it looks as if they've stayed in mostly the same order through the first few corners. Some people running a little wide, but actually quite well behaved. Not many people cutting the chicane at all, and way fewer than usual. Good to see. Okay, through turn 3 now, or through turn 4. That's a tight one, right out to the Armco, and there's a couple of cars spun in the back. Fabian Bally is one of them, Remco de Joux is another, and they've been collected by Gerard Batalla. Still, everyone has their front wings attached to them, so we don't have any major dramas, but there were a couple of spinners deep in the field. Loic Meunier up the inside of Federico Russo, that's for 10th place. Russo able to hold on because the next corner is a left-hander and goes in his favour. Now here's turn 10, this is where the Singapore Sling used to be, a slightly reprofiled section of circuit, and the Multiforce cars looked as if they were going to swap behind there, Meunier not giving way to Menno Clon. Here's a replay of what happened at the very start of this race. Here's Fabian Bally, one of the two drivers who went for a little rotation, and was it contact with the other driver who went for a rotation? Oh, well there it all happened. Round he went, got whacked by a couple of drivers. That's Batalla getting all hooked up with him, and the other driver who spun around was Remco de Joux. Gerard Batalla is now running last in this race, and the 3 drivers involved in the incident are off the back of the train now. Okay, towards the end of the first lap, no DRS active just yet. That will be active later on in this race, and will be quite powerful here because the drivers all run quite a lot of wing, and there are some relatively long straights for a street circuit as well. That start-finish straight there, that will be a DRS zone, although that's not usually an overtaking opportunity. The next DRS zone starts on the exit of this corner. Meanwhile, Loic Meunier there has just got past Federico Russo. That's for P11 as we speak. And Arda Erkan is still the top driver on the alternate compound because he is in P13, so he's only lost 1 position. There's where the second DRS zone will be, and Russo is coming back at Loic Meunier up the inside, and he doesn't even need the rear wing flap, but actually Meunier is holding on to him and is going to get him back up the inside into that semi-hairpin. Down towards turn 10 once again. This isn't an overtaking opportunity unless you are well and truly alongside your opponent here. Third gear through there, or at least it was in the FS2, and then he switched down into second for the tight chicane, and that is an extremely tight chicane. There have been a couple of pile-ups in that. Here's where the third DRS zone will be, across what they call the Anderson Bridge, or just after the Anderson Bridge, and then into another right-angled right-hander. We're already past that point. Sorry, I'm still watching the Meunier-Russo battle on my other screen, but we're watching Darius Andre on the back of Owen McGorgy. If Andre can get past McGorgy here, that would play very nicely into the hands of his teammate Jake Dennehan, because Andre can play a sort of rear gunner role. Dennehan is still within theoretical championship contention here, although is a long way back from the top 2, so will struggle to stay in contention. Down into turn 4 once again. DRS is active from this zone, so you see the rear wing flap opening. This is the first time that they've been able to use it in this race, and like I said before, I believe it's going to be fairly powerful here today. And the order in this race is showing you the value of teamwork, as Errol Bogdaci passes his teammate, goes up into P13 now, ahead of Arda Erkan, who comes back at him. No team orders there. The 2 Friesland cars going at it. Erkan cutting back and going right around the outside on harder tyres. Nicely done from Arda Erkan. This battle doing neither of them favours. They're being under attack from Valley Esports and Damien Kardash here. I say Valley Esports as a whole because there's both of them, and Musadas has gone right around the outside of Bogdaci. Amazing. Down the straight we go. Yes, as I was going to say, this race showing the value of teamwork because both of the TTS off cars and both of the Nocturnes are in the top 5, followed by the 2 HGPs. And then Nova, of course, have both their cars in the top 10. So obviously there are specific teams that have their setup nailed today. That's a very tight section, of course, to go side by side into, guys. And Kardash makes it work, and that's a really good move from Damien Kardash there. Oh, and he gets tagged. Oh, and into the wall heavily goes one of the Valley Esports drivers, and that was Vincent Gutt. And he will be gutted. Got spun right the way around, clonked the barriers, and off went his front wing. He ran into the back of Kardash, and then it all kind of got hooked up in a chain reaction that saw Hyla going into the back of him. Looks like Perseus Miram is dropping places now as well, and that's because he's had a spin at turn 1. So Miram's been around, and also Rafał Lukaszewski has been around as well. So a couple of collisions there, and Miram had another spin while trying to get going again. That's what the yellow flags were all about. And we're about to see a replay of the Vincent Gutt issue. You see there, it all just gets super stacked up through that sequence of corners. Not really anyone's fault, I'd say. You see it from the outside point of view now. Hyla just gives him the slightest tap, and off goes Vincent Gutt. Bit of an accordion effect. The cars got closer together as they were moving slower for the corners, and the gaps got tiny. Oh, Miram being lapped now. Not being lapped, sorry. That's a replay. So this is so that's what happened between him and Lukaszewski. So I thought it was too early for the lap race. It was indeed. And then Miram's going to have another spin when he gets going, but we don't necessarily need to see that. Tom Stevens now keeping up with Darius Andre up ahead. Andre also keeping up with the top 2. McGorky's in danger of losing DRS at this rate, though. That would make him super vulnerable to Andre behind. We're going to have a bit of a DRS train forming here because McGorky is able to defend using the DRS from Denahan. So Darius is not able to get past him using the DRS from Owen himself. Down into another braking zone they go. And then a right-hander, which according to my track map is known as Stamford. There's Padang. And then after that they would have been heading down to the Singapore Sling section of the course, where the old 3-pronged chicane used to catch drivers out all the time. There's the Anderson Bridge. It's actually kind of a double bridge because it goes straight back across the sea again on the exit of that corner. Not that you can really see that, the walls are built too high around here. Such is the nature of the street circuit. This corner is known as Esplanade. And then we go through Bay and under the grandstand. And the rest of the corners on the tracks are just numbers. You've got 20, 21, 22 and 23. 22 and 23 effectively being treated as the same corner on this track. New fastest lap time for Jake Denahan. Pulling away from Owen McGorky now. And it looks to me as if he's broken clear of the DRS range. McGorky was not able to open his rear wing flap on that straight there. Kept it closed, and we'll have to again in this sector, so this could be Andre's first chance. I think he's a little too far back, I'm afraid, but like I said before, the DRS is very effective here. There's a slight kink in that straight which doesn't help. It's the second straight really where you can get well and truly up alongside your opponents. Stavros Musadis about to demonstrate now on Arda Erkan. Around the outside. Oh, very nice. He's going to have the inside for the next corner too. That's one of the best moves I've seen so far today. So up to 13th now for Stavros Musadis. In the YouTube chat, hello to David Yunt saying I should be ashamed for that pun. I think you mean the gutted pun? I'm quite proud of it. I'm sure I've said it before. I'm sure that Vincent himself has heard it a lot and is probably sick of it by now, but I can't resist, you know? I'm a commentator. I make puns. But anyway, Craig Patterson cheering on Nova, who was driving for earlier in the championship. Second Nova car is comfortably in the hands of Stephen Lexo, who is running in 9th position in this race. And the other Nova car, Owen McGorgy, is feeling slightly less comfortable in 2nd place right now, because despite being a better position, he is under pressure from one of the fastest drivers out there in potentially the fastest car out there. Joe Stownhead says there's a lot of gut puns for Vincent. Yeah, I'm sure there are. Sorry, Vincent. Kind of like Hygo Poom, you know? With Hygo, you kind of have to make like a boom pun whenever he has an accident or something. Or at least I know commentators in the past who have made a bit of a meme out of that. Anyway, Loic Mounier. Running in 10th position now for Multiforce, and Damien Kardash ducks out of the slipstream of Bugdaichi. Mounier, you'll notice, is in the 2nd Multiforce car, which usually would be taken by Jason Muscat, but Jason not here today. Darius is a lot closer to Owen McGorgy now. Still no actual attempt at the position, but that time round I was definitely keeping a full eye on it rather than just half an eye. And this is going to be difficult for Owen to hold off, because Darius, like I said before, is one of the fastest drivers out there. TCS Off have clearly got their setup right as well. They're a very good team as well, TCS Off Racing. They take it super seriously. And even though their drivers are young and sometimes slightly hot-headed, they have respect up and down the grid. Oh, McGorgy though, also very young, also very fast, and has quite a wide car at some points, so this isn't going to be easy for Denahan by any means. But sorry, for Andre by any means. Out of the corner. DRS open once again for Darius Andre. And still not able to take advantage of Owen McGorgy's slightly slower top speed ahead of him. David Yunt says, if I pronounce Hygo as we do here, Swiss German kinda, it means going home. Oh, interesting. So the puns kind of change depending on where you are, where you're from in the world. That's funny. I've seen that before with some other names, but none spring to mind straight away. But anyway. Okay, lap 8 out of 10 now. We're getting close to the 1/3 of the way through this race point. Settle down a little up at the front. Darius seems to be biding his time a little. And behind him, the Nocturne cars are very comfortable where they are right now, as are the HGPs. Back in the pack, there's a bit more squabbling going on, but that does tend to be the case. And as much as I know I'm going to spoil this by saying it, I believe it's been quite a clean race so far. Only Vincent Gutt has been into the pits with damage. And please don't all go and prove me wrong immediately, drivers. But for now, racing well. Out of turn 3 they go. Under what is basically a public highway there. Crosses over the track a few times. Must be fascinating to drive over there on a race day. I'm surprised the drivers don't all get distracted by what's going on below them, especially with the loud noises and such. Imagine if someone didn't know there was a Grand Prix going on and, you know, took their daily commute home from work or something. Ended up just driving over an active racetrack. Here goes Damien Kardash, there's some Bugdaichi. And... ooh, a little bump of wheels. I think that's on Erkan, actually. And Erkan goes over the curbs. That is Erkan. Survives it. Keeps it out of the barriers. And considering Kardash is on soft tyres, Erkan is still the top driver on the hards. The next best is Remco de Joux in 19th place in this race. I swear Damien used to be a much better qualifier than he's been in the last few races. Ooh, that's tight. Very tight there with Alexander Ragosa. The other Gallery 82 car getting involved, going to the outside. Little touch. That's where Russell was dumped into the wall by Grosjean a few years ago. And, oh my goodness, gets properly run out of road. They bump again on the exit. Somehow they don't hit the wall. And through on the inside comes Bugdaichi. Oh, Ragosa doesn't see him and off goes the front wing. Bugdaichi into the barrier. And I don't believe that was his fault there. I think he was obliged, or not obliged, but he was... he had a right to be where he was and deserved to be given a bit more room than that. I mean, I'm sure that if there's a steward's inquiry, they will look at it more thoroughly than I've done, but he was more than enough alongside Ragosa before Ragosa started to turn in. Admittedly, on Ragosa's defense as well, he kind of did give him room. It's just a shame that when the two cars did brush together, they locked wheels. Anyway, whatever the case, Bugdaichi now is going to struggle to score points on his FS1 debut, which I think he would have got otherwise. That's a shame there. Massimiliano Riboli has now become our first retirement from the race. Wasn't running in the points, but yeah, it's a shame to see Riboli out so early. He's so good in the FS2 car. And yeah, Smile Power having another tough time out there. Oh, he did a PK. I was just look back on it. Crashed in exactly the place that Nelson Piquet had his famous deliberate crash in. This for Massimiliano though looked a lot less suspicious. Just kind of put the power down too quickly and looped it. Hit the ball nose on, and has decided to retire from this race, or maybe lost the engine or something like that. And into the pits now come Darius Andre and Moritz Kropp. So this race has begun to spice itself up with the first two pit stoppers relatively early. I don't think it's so early that they can't do a one stop. And Moritz Kropp has jumped Darius Andre, look. So Moritz comes out of the pits ahead of Darius Andre. The pit stop quicker for the Nocturne drivers, and they've got a car between them now. Damien Kardash. That did not go well for Darius Andre. Not at all. Now he's got to pass him on the road. He'll have the DRS, but so will Andre. So will Kardash, sorry. And Kardash has soft tyres. That did not work how Andre wanted it to at all. Moritz Kropp's going to get away a bit here, I think, on the outlap. I wonder if that's going to play on the minds of, or play on the mind of Denahan. He's got enough of a gap to the drivers behind him that if he did pit and have a pit stop that was maybe a second or so slower than he would like, he would still come out ahead. Yellow flags out there now. Actually in that sector, seemingly, but... oh, and there it is. There's a car parked. That's Perseus Miram. Parked across the road on the exit. McGorgy had to go evasive. McGorgy took evasive action, but did manage to avoid Perseus Miram as he was rejoining. Miram goes back to the pits now, missing his front and rear wings. And here you're going to see the evasive action from onboard Owen McGorgy. It's just after this next chicane. You see the yellow flags flashing, so McGorky does know that something's going on. Ooh, that's a close one. That is a very close one. Good reaction times there from Owen McGorky. Had his wits about him and kept out of trouble. A few more drivers in the pits now. Ragosa is in. None of the top few drivers into the pits though. I do wonder what kind of a strategy those two drivers who pitted on the last lap are going for. Whether, because it's quite a long time to go on hards, but it's definitely doable. Maybe they're trying to keep themselves flexible, thinking, well, I still don't know if I want to go for a 2-stop or a 1-stop, so I'm going to leave it wide open, see what the tyres do in the second stint here. And Ragosa exits the pits P21. Andre is still not past Kardash, by the way, and Moritz Kropp is well and truly getting away. He's now 3 seconds ahead of the driver who was ahead of him before coming into the pits. And that gap's just going to keep extending for as long as Andre is stuck behind Damien Kardash, who is under no obligation to move out of the way. He's on the same lap as Darius Andre and would lose too much time in his own strategy if he was giving way to the leaders. It's their responsibility to go through. And here comes Jake Dennehan. So Dennehan into the pits now. Owen McGorky will take over the lead of this race. He leads by 1 second from Tom Stevens. Dennehan will have the lead. He exits the pits, and he's got enough time to Moritz Kropp to maintain first position. Exits it now. Moritz is just coming out of the last corner, and Moritz is now being held up by Stavros Mercedes. So Dennehan, if anything, has extended his lead. Still the fastest driver on track. Into the pits comes Menno Klunt as well. He was running P15. McGorky and Stevens have got to react soon, or else risk staying out too long on those tyres and losing too much time from the degradation. Oh, Moritz takes a look and touches. He definitely touched with Stavros Mercedes there. And that's a little bit of desperation as he's stuck behind that Valley Esports car. Behind him, Andre's still stuck behind Kardash as well. Here's a look from on board. Sparks flying. I have to say, went a little bit too late for that one, but it's okay because no harm, no foul. And he has now got past Stavros Mercedes, so gets up into 10th position as we speak. There's briefly another yellow flag out there somewhere. Was that a wing I saw on the track? Yes, Vincent Guts lost his wing. So Guts Day goes from bad to worse. Into the pits comes Owen McGorgy now. And McGorgy was about 3 seconds behind Jake Dennehan, so keep that in mind when we're looking at what the gap is when they come out. Federico Russo just passed Loic Mounier because Mounier is also in the pits, as is Amari Watson here. And Guts' mistake happened all on his own. He spun coming out of the last corner, and he's got the whole lap to do without his rear wing. Out of the pits comes McGorky. Dennehan's already gone through, and so has Moritz Kropp. Moritz Kropp has jumped, not just Andre, big slide for McGorky now. He's jumped not just Darius Andre. Oh, and something's happened to McGorky. He's lost his wing. McGorky spins. Did that happen coming out of the pits? Well, something bizarre has happened to McGorky. We were on board with him the whole time, but he must have been tapped somewhere. No, he's already lost at that point. Oh, and Russo's spun while we're at it. Russo's just spun from P6. He got hit as he was joining the circuit. Amari Watson there tried to sneak to the left-hand side of the car to get to his own pit box and clobbered Owen McGorgy. There's no defending that, I'm afraid. That's a horrendous lapse in judgment. Sometimes you see that from drivers who have come across from iRacing and don't realise that there are collision physics in the pit lane. I've seen that happen a few times. But it looked as if Amari Watson was trying to avoid McGorky by going to the left, completely misjudged it, and he's hit the driver second in the championship and taken him out of contention for the race. Tom Stevens in the pits now. And Stevens will probably extend his championship lead here as a result of that. We're halfway through this race now. Frank Hamming also into the pits, so is Mirko Lucchini and Stephen Lexo, so that means that Dennehan will once again take the lead. Through he goes. Now, does Kropp come out ahead of his teammate Stevens as well? Moritz Kropp has jumped so far up the order in this pit sequence. He is second place, genuinely, in this order now. What a drive this has been from Kropp, who, remember, was behind Tom Stevens before all of this pit sequence happened. So Kropp has jumped Andre, he's jumped, well, he did jump McGorky, and then it didn't even matter in the end, and then he also jumped Tom Stevens. And Fabian, sorry, that's McGorgy returned to the pits. He lost his front wing out there too, which may have helped him get back to the pits, because it would have stabilised the balance a bit. A few more drivers in the pits: Fabian Ballet, Owen McGorgy, Rafał Lukaszewski, Vincent Gutt. Two of those with damage. So the order now, after the halfway distance point in the race, is Jake Dennehan leading from Moritz Kropp second, then Tom Stevens and Darius Andre. And I tell you what, Kropp's on soft tyres. That's how this will happen. Kropp is on soft tyres, so he is going for the two-stop strategy. And Nocturne are splitting their strategies here. They put Kropp on the... Ooh, Lexar almost losing it. They put Kropp on the two-stopper and Stevens on the one-stopper. And I'd say that's a very good idea from the Nocturne team there. And it can also give you a good idea of what you're going to do for race 2 as well. Has Damien Kardash pitted? I don't think he has yet, has he? Because he's come from right down deep in the field. So no, he hasn't stopped. He's running in 5th place, and he comes in now. So that puts Hamming back up into 5th. So it's Dennehan, Kropp, Stevens, Andre, Hamming. Then it's going to be Lucchini and Lexo. Kardash still in the pits. Erkan is up there, as is Loic Mounier. And also in the points are Remco de Joux, Amari Watson, Menno Clant, Stavros Muzeidis, and Federico Rosso. Owen McGorky is unfortunately down in 23rd position and very nearly a lap down now. Through absolutely no fault of his own. Out of the pit lane comes Kardash, P14 now. Just behind Stavros Muzeidis. And Lucchini's made a mistake, so through goes Stephen Lexo. Sorry, I was just looking at the YouTube chat again, so I missed exactly how that happened, but we're going to see a replay of that. Heading down through the second DRS zone. And Lexo went for the move up the inside. And yes, Lucchini elected to run out wide. Looking at the YouTube chat as well, yeah, I'm afraid a lot of people saying that the blame falls squarely on Amari Watson for that pit lane incident. Of course it did. I mean, Owen was stopped. He was almost stationary, only just getting going. Nothing he could have done about it. One of the weirdest sim racing movements I've ever seen, says Top Tom 53. I have seen it before, actually. I've seen it happen before, but not for a while and not quite in that way. Anyway, and Massimiliano Riboli saying, I don't know, but FS1 is not for me. I can't think Bakari hate more. Fascinating, actually. Yeah. Darius Andre in the pits now. Is that his second stop? Yeah, of course it is. Oh, Kropp's taking a look at Dennehan. Oh no, he's lost it. Kropp makes a mistake. He spins back into the racing line and rejoins before getting in the way of his teammate. So Moritz Kropp there has made a mistake. Got a little too eager. It was very similar to his slight collision with that other driver earlier on. I can't remember exactly who it was, but But yeah, very similar. Darius now back on the soft tyres that he started the race on, so this is a 2-stop for Darius. A long way behind Moritz Kropp still, but Kropp is yet to make his second stop. Might well do that now that his tyres are ruined, to put it mildly. And Moritz also hasn't used the hards yet. That's really put a spanner in the works of his race. He was a real contender for a podium position until that all happened. And Dennehan did nothing wrong, just held his line. I'm afraid that on that occasion it was Moritz who was slightly overambitious. No disrespect to Moritz, of course. If you don't cheat, you don't score. But he ended up facing backwards. Dennehan now leads by 9 seconds in this race, and Kropp is in the pits, repairing those damaged tyres. So Frank Hamming will go up into 3rd position in the HGP car. Where's the other HGP car? Murray Watson down in 10th place in this race. So Watson's lost a whole heap of time. I wonder if he had automatic damage repairs after that collision with McGorky in the pits. Potentially, because he was right up with Frank Hamming before this all happened. And he's now down in 10th position in this race behind the recovering Moritz Kropp, who's now on fresh tyres, don't forget, so Moritz will potentially climb up a few more places now. Remco de Gieux up ahead of him. Remco's got to be yet to stop. Yeah, so Remco's yet to stop, as is Loic Mounier and Erda Erkan, who of course started on the the harder tyre. Same as Mounier and de Gieux, they both started on the harder tyre themselves. There is Loic Mounier catching Erkan. Sorry, Mounier has pitted, hasn't he? He starts on the soft tyres, so actually he's gained a few places in this order. He's now ahead of Moritz Kropp genuinely. And Murray Watson. Gained plenty of seconds over his teammate in all of that. Menno's kind of been a little left behind, I'm afraid to say. This race is a tricky one. Sometimes you look away and you just kind of miss something that puts someone way down the order. I feel like a lot of this race is just going to be about making fewer mistakes than your opponents. Especially at a circuit like this where mistakes can cost you, bits of your car really. Is that Erda Erkan coming into the pits? Yes, it was. So Erkan pits. Moritz now has Remco de Gieux to get past. He's caught him fast. Oh, too fast! Too fast! It's just like the Tom Stevens incident. And around goes Kropp and loses yet more positions now. This time to Watson and Klont, who have both gone through. It looked to me as if Moritz was distracted or confused by the closing speed between his car and de Gieux's. And actually I think I probably would have been as well, because there was quite a difference. But you have to be aware of that. You have to be ready for something like that when you're following a car on older tyres. Oh, yeah. Locked it up. Round he went. Once again, I'm afraid that is a mistake by Moritz Kropp, although I can understand why he made that mistake in his defence. Whatever, doesn't matter. Puts him down to 10th position, despite having the fastest lap of anyone in this race. Now he's behind Menno Klont. Jake Dennehan now leads this race by 10 seconds. He's been running away with it since McGorgy had his issue. It's a shame, really. It's taken a lot of the spice out of this race. Still not over yet by any means. There's Andre making a move. His two-stopper I really don't think is working as much as it could have done. Moritz's may have worked better, but we'll never know now because he's had a couple of spins. And that once again means that race 2 is going to be a bit of an enigma. We won't really know which strategy, as for pitting or not pitting, is going to be better. Remco de Joux, meanwhile, in the pits, putting Stavros Mercedes into the top 10. So does that mean that everyone's pitted now? Potentially. It would be very late not to stop. Yeah, because Mercedes is pitted. And de Joux rejoins the race just outside of the points paying positions. Here's Krop on the back of Klunt and Watson. My apologies. Moritz Krop on the back of Menno Klunt and Amari Watson. Krop, has been struggling a bit recently by his standards. His last victory was in Azerbaijan. He's only scored one podium since then, I'm afraid to say. He's clearly had the pace, but today I feel like he's thrown a few opportunities away. Still plenty more to come in Moritz's career though. Up ahead of him, Menno Klunt. Klunt yet to finish on the podium this season. But is getting close and knows what it takes to get there. Towards the final corner of this particular lap they go. Lap 21 of 30 they're on now. As you can see in the top left-hand side of the screen. We're into the final third of proceedings. It's still Denahan leading from Stevens, Hamming, Lexo, Lucchini, Mounier, Watson, Klunt, Krop, and Mercedes. And yeah, sorry, wow, Lucchini's come out of nowhere, hasn't he? Because he stopped too. He was running about 9th in the early stages, just ahead of Steven Lexo, but I mean, Lexo's now jumped in, but still Lucchini's up to 5th. Andre now gets Federico Rosso, and yeah, shout out to Steven Lexo. He was running 9th earlier on, qualified 9th, I think, and is now into the top 4, and actually seems to be closing on Frank Hamming, so potential for a podium here for Steven Lexo, potentially. That could be the next major fight in this race. Right, now who's brought out that yellow flag? Looks as if Ragosa may have been involved. There's Krop, Krop getting the run on Klunt. Up the inside. Another braking zone, heavy braking. Gets through, but Klunt is on the outside, turns into the inside. Menno Klunt stays ahead. Incidentally, the collision that brought out the yellow flags was between Alexander Ragosa and Remco de Joux. Both of them spun down at turn 6, but both of them have continued on in this race in 17th and 18th positions. So close to the barriers. What's that on the exit? You almost expect to see sparks flying and body bits coming off, but they get close to the wall without actually hitting it most of the time. Sometimes you can get away with just scraping the wall. The game doesn't like it much. It can sometimes even give you track limits penalties for it, but you can. You just don't want to hit it hard. Oh! As Moritz Krop just did there. That was a rather heavy hit. Oh, and I think his steering is hanging slightly, yes. His steering does appear to be hanging slightly to the left. Only very slightly, but that's going to distract him. Means he's going to have to take up a little more brain power to control this car now. You can just about see it. It's not straight, is it? Through the Singapore sling. More yellow flags. I'm going to go on my check through the field. Dylan Tarberton has stopped. On the road, actually. Has stopped just to the side of the road. And it looks as if he's had a spin down at one of the chicanes in the 3rd sector. And just hasn't been able to get going. Has now been able to get going. So Tarberton back into the race. Maciej Heiler just got passed by Arda Erkamp for P14. There's Stephen Lexo, way up the order from where he started, 5 places up the order from where he started, which in the early state, or in, sorry, the sharpy, pointy end of the grid is impressive. Let's see some more YouTube comments. David Yunt posting pretty much all of them recently. Thank you for your activeness, David. Oh no, crop got cropped. Close. I prefer saying like clont got clonked or something like that. Maxing out the track and some more, yes indeed. Moritz using a lot of the circuit. All of the available surface that he can out there right now. As I think someone else might be too, because I saw yet another yellow flag. Oh, and there is a collision, and it's Lukashevsky and Bogdaci. It looked to me as if Bogdaci was once again the innocent victim, just as he was in his earlier collision. It looked as if Rafał Lukashevsky had spun and was rejoining the road when he collected Errol Bogdaci, and the collision was very Grosjean Russell-esque. It was Lukashevsky and actually Owen McGorgy, with Lukashevsky being forced into the barrier before rejoining right into the path of Bogdaci, who is now unfortunately out of his GPVWC FS1 debut. I am going to go and let my cat out very briefly before she meows again loudly, but I will be back in just a few seconds. Apologies. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't even know my cat was in my room until she meowed loudly at the door, but anyway, there you have it. So, Menno Clont here running P8, and looking at the times too, Stephen Lexo is even closer to Frank Hamming than when I left a few seconds ago. So, I'll be watching that one as you are watching Darius Andre taking a look. That's Damien Kardash, that's P11. On the outside now. Oh, almost getting crowded into the wall. We had a very tense last lap last year where there was a big collision between the leaders in that section of the course. But anyway, Darius Andre has managed to get it now and take 11th position. Here is a replay of what's just happened. This is the Andre move around the outside of that second part. Pretty good stuff from Darius Andre there. Forceful racing, but fair, and he made it stick. There he goes, round the outside. Oh, that's close. Almost got a lift from Damien's wheel. 5 laps to go in this race now. It looks like Jake Dennehan has done in the bag. The main battle now is that for 3rd position. We are watching the fight a little further down. This is for 7th, 8th and 9th. And just behind them you see 10th, 11th and 12th pretty close as well. Also relatively close in this race are a few more drivers a little further down the field, although none really fighting for points right now. And Moritz Kropp still has the fastest lap, which will give him a point if he finishes inside the top 15. There's the slipstream and the DRS into one of the many 90-degree left-handers, and through goes Darius Andre. Stavros Musadis made the mistake, invited him through effectively, and through he goes indeed. So now the second TCSoft racing car is back inside the top 10 and catching the other notable 2-stop strategy driver, Moritz Kropp. Neither of these drivers will be particularly proud of themselves after these, I feel, but you got to take a gamble sometimes. I think this probably means that the teams are going to be maybe trying to go for a a 0 stopper in race 2, because what Moritz and Andre have proved is that it's one thing to be quicker than your opponents, which they undoubtedly are, and another thing to actually get through. And it's that sort of traffic management that can potentially make a one-stop strategy in race 2 and a two-stop strategy in race 1 completely unfeasible. Press the line once again. 4 laps to go for this bunch. I suppose 5 including the one they're on now. Still only 1 retirement in this race. It's been a rather quiet one, luckily. No, sorry, 2 retirements because of Bugdaci's incident a few laps ago. I do feel for Errol because neither of his collisions were his fault in this race. And this is his very first FS1 race. It has been relatively clean. It just seems to be that whenever something does happen, Bugdaci was involved. And Krop gets up the inside of Menno Klont. Goes through. Klont will have the inside. These two went side by side earlier on in this race, and it's round 2 now. Darius Andre to the outside, trying to follow him through. So Krop's already got the place, and Andre, what an amazing move around the outside of the corner that I said earlier was single file. Fantastic stuff there from Darius Andre, move of the race so far. We're going to see a replay of it now. You see the two drivers fighting up ahead, Moritz Krop and Menno Klont. And Darius thinks, I can make the most of this. Makes his car stick, goes to the outside. He has the inside for the chicane. Done and dusted. And that is a very clever move, actually. Very well thought out and planned in the moment. I very much like that one. Right, who were the yellow flags for? I think everyone's still got their wings about them. Anyway. Not long to go now in this particular race. Not long at all. Who else have we got in the YouTube chat? Oh, David Yunt says Loic Meownier. That's a nice one. Darius now to the outside of Moritz Krop. And makes that move as well. Oh, they slide, they touch wheels. He's still on the outside. Krop fends him off. Oh, that would have been an amazing move from Darius. Good, clean racing between the two, just about. Left-hander, right-hander, sorry, right-hander, left-hander. Right again, left again. DRS to be opened. Moritz doesn't quite have the DRS from Amari Watson up in front. So he's still vulnerable to Darius Andre. Both of these drivers have wins in this championship so far. Andre has 2, Krop has 2. Although Andre's 2 have come more recently. A little bit of a twitch. Yellow flags again out there somewhere, and Stephen Lexo's in the pits. What's happened to him? Stephen Lexo... I wonder if he... Yeah, because he was on soft tyres coming in, so he's had to pit to use the hards. He just wanted to run as much of the race on the softs as he possibly could. That does make sense. Sorry, I really should have spotted that. Yeah, so he's now using hard tyres according to the server anyway. And that is a replay bug, so we're not actually seeing a replay right now. We're in live time. So, P6 for Nova Sim Racing. Damien Kardash. P13 is he? Ooh. Fighting with Federico Russo. Russo gets over the curb, which kind of acts like a rail slide for a skateboard. When you get onto that curb, you don't really have any steering. It's quite a disconcerting feeling. And Kardash uses that to his advantage to get through. And Moritz Kropp once again in the spotlight in the closing stages of a race. It's too far back now from Amari Watson to really challenge him too much, but Darius Andre is right there and looking rather more present in this fight. Bit of a slide from Moritz Kropp. An all-wheel drift there. Got a little bit out of shape. And he'll have one more lap. Sorry, 2 more laps, because Jake's well past the finish line by now. Wow, I'm losing track of how far ahead Jake actually is in this race, but he is dominating it. Okay, so 2 more laps now for Moritz Kropp. Out through the first couple of corners. Got a little over the AstroTurf. Down the second DRS straight. Error 404, no Nova lot detected, says David Junt. Yes, indeed. So Stephen made an error at the first stop to go onto softs. It should have been a one-stop strategy, so he should have gone onto hards. That's gutting. I think he's only lost about 1 place in the grand scheme of things, potentially, because his speed on the softs was very, very good. Maybe did lose 2 places, Lucchini as well. Okay, Lucchini's been a real star today. We should just never pit, always goes wrong, says Just Downard. Yeah, I'm afraid so. It certainly seems that way. Waiting for that hovercraft car then, yes indeed. Okay. Final lap now for the race leader. He's gone on to the last lap of racing here at Singapore. And the fight further back can take nothing away from how good Jake Dennehan has been in this particular race. It's been quite a straightforward one, actually, overall. The main drama, the main talking point from this was the incident in the pit lane with Owen McGorgy. Although there were a few battles further down the order, unfortunately they didn't really affect the leaders that much. But it's not over yet. Stephen Lexo going for 5th now on Loic Mounier on much fresher tyres, goes through super easily. Very well done from Stephen Lexo there. And yeah, it does mean his pit stop may only have lost him about 1 place in the grand scheme of things. Still, not ideal. And here comes Jake Dennehan now, into the final sector for the last time. He has been utterly unstoppable today. And race 2, it's going to be so hard to beat him in. It's a very nearly pole to flag victory for Jake Dennehan, and he wins it at Singapore, weaving his way across the line. It's going to be by about 18.5 seconds in all here. Amazingly done. There's Tom Stevens. He's going to be P2. There he goes, Tom Stevens P2. Frank Hamming is going to be P3. When was the last time Hamming was on the podium? I'll check that quickly. He was on the podium in Belgium, race 2, finished 3rd. Mirko Lucchini P4. That's got to be a FS1 best result for Mirko, right? Lucchini, yes, well it definitely is for this year. Excellent stuff from Mirko Lucchini. Then Stephen Lexo 5th, Loic Mounier 6th, Amari Watson, Moritz Kropp, Darius Andre, Menno Klont, Stavros Muzeidis, Arda Erkan, Damien Kardash, Federico Rosso and Fabian Bali, the the remaining drivers in the point scoring positions, but no, Hyler, oh, and around goes Ballet. Hyler and Ballet were fighting for the final point on the last lap of the race, and Fabian has been spun out of contention there. The inside curb was involved as well. Anyway, we'll finish 16th. And the drivers who missed out on the points at the end there were Fabian Ballet, Remco de Joux, Owen McGorgy, Alexander Ragosa, Gerard Batalla, Dylan Turberton, Rafał Lukaszewski, Vincent Gutt, and Persis Miran. And I have to feel sorry for Owen McGorgy because I feel like he would almost definitely finish second in that race and actually gained some points on his championship rival as a result. But no, he's lost some points as a result and will be a long, long way behind now as he finishes there in 18th. Sorry, yeah, 18th position. That is a big shame. So that's it for race 1, but don't go anywhere because we have a second race coming up soon. After another little warm-up session, you're just taking a look at the full results again. But I'm going to go take a break now, going to go have a drink, and then I will be back for race 2. See you in a few minutes. Hello everyone and welcome back to Singapore for GPVWC Formula Sprint 1. We're still here for round 13 of the championship and we've just seen race 1, which was absolutely dominated by Jake Dennehan, who was in control of the race right from the start and pretty much ran away with it. Looks like we're currently waiting potentially for Mirko Lucchini, who left the server and is attempting to rejoin. But the warm-up session has seen the checkered flag, so as soon as he comes back, I'm sure that we will be ready to go forth into the race session and begin the second race. It's going to be a 20-lap race, and it's definitely doable on no stops, so one set of hard tyres. But it is going to be tricky. Mirko is now back in the server, so I'm sure that we will be getting going for very long at all. Now, the fastest in that warm-up session, if anyone was wondering, was Fabian Ballet, sorry. Although we didn't have many drivers setting representative lap times there. Fewer drivers tend to go out in the warm-up session, the second warm-up session anyway. And the reverse grid number that was drawn was 7, meaning that pole position will go to Murray Watson. So Watson is going to be starting on pole, and our race 1 winner, Jake Dennehan, who is clearly getting way too good for GPVWC FS1 right now, having recently won a super lights race. He will start from 7th on the grid and will have to come through the field. I think he absolutely can do it. Will he though? It's going to be tough, especially here at Singapore, which is such a tight circuit. And one where you don't normally expect to see overtakes despite the 3 DRS zones and the relatively long straights. I would probably put my money on Stephen Lexo here. I think Lexo was looking very strong in race 1, was coming through the field, and starting from P3, he's probably going to be one to look out for, despite having some very quick drivers not too far behind him at all. We are now in the race session, so we will be going to the grid very, very shortly, and then we will be able to see the full starting order for race 2. It's just the starting order from race 1, but with the top 7 finishes. Sorry, the finishing order of race 1, with the top 7 finishes completely flipped on their heads. There you see the beautiful field of GPVWC racers heading out onto the circuit. So Mounier taking his place with about 6 seconds to go. And off they go on the formation lap now. So let's take a look at the full starting lineup for race 2. On pole position here is Murray Watson, who finished 7th in race 1 in car number 7. Then it's Laurent Mounier in 2nd place, Stephen Lexo is 3rd, and Mirko Lucchini is in 4th place. That's about 8 positions better than what his previous best was. Frank Hamming P5, then Tom Stevens P6, Jake Dennehan, race 1 winner, coming from P7, and Moritz Kropp behind him. Remember, Moritz actually hit Dennehan, trying to take the lead. Darius Andre P9, Manu Klont P10, Stavros Musadis P11, and then Erda Erkan P12. Then it's Damien Kardash, Federico Russo, Maciej Heiler, and Fabian Ballet. Fabian just missing out on points in race 1. Remco de Joux, Omar Gorgi, Alexander Agosa, and Gerard Batalla also missed out. Magorgi through no fault of his own, and he will be fired up right now. Dylan Tarbutin, Rafał Lukaszewski, Vincent Gutt, and Perseus Miram are next. And we have 2 more drivers on this grid. Well, we have one actually, Errol Bugdaichi. So who's left the server? Let me just check quickly because we've lost one driver. Massimiliano Riboli. Okay, that makes sense. He was saying after race 1 that he really hated this car, so it does make sense that he's not out there anyway. Also, hello to my friend Abby, who I've just learned is watching along. Very, very nice. Thank you very much for jumping in, Abby. We're about to get going for the second race of the day. It's going to be a 20-lap sprint with no pit stop, and it should be a lot more interesting than the first race, I'd say, because we have a a few drivers starting out of position further down than you would be expecting. Dylan Tarberton appears to be expecting to start from the pit lane, and there you see the tyres that everybody is starting on. Arda Erkan, the top driver, starting on softs, potentially going for a one-stop strategy, as is Maciej Heiler and Gerard Bertala, and Tarberton could make his mind up last second by the looks of things. We will see. To the grid we go now. Amari Watson way overshoots his grid box. He's going to have to reverse straight back in there. That was a massive overshoot. Luckily you don't get penalties for that. He almost jumped the start though, went straight across the start line and everything. Into the grid position he goes now. The last few cars will line up further back. Errol Bugdaichi lining up from the back, and Tarberton is not going to start this race, I'm afraid. He says he can't press drive. Okay, when the lights go out, we'll be underway. And it's go here for race 2. Watson gets a good jump, gets off the line well, and covers off Loic Mounier. Into turn 1 we go. Hopefully it's all clean. Lucchini's on the outside. Lexo cuts across. Lexo cuts across and jumps across the sausage curb. That was the biggest cut we've seen in either race, and he's going to get involved now with a couple of drivers on the exit of turn 3. A little bit of contact. Luckily, no wings going flying just yet. That's good to see. I was expecting to see at least one coming off in that little melee there. And actually, everyone's still pointing the same direction out of turn 4, unlike in race 1. So it's Watson, Mounier, Lucchini, then Hamming and Denahan. So Denahan already up into P5 now. Arda Erkan up into P9, trying to go around the outside of Moritz Krop on those softer tyres. Every move he pulls is super important for his own race here. And Moritz as well is not going to want to let him get through at this point. With a 20-lap sprint, you can't really afford to give up any positions just in case your opponent is racing you for position in the grand scheme of things. Over the Anderson Bridge they go now, through the hairpin. There's Andre now side by side with Tom Stevens, almost crowding him over into the wall. And now it's Stevens' turn. Oh, and they do make contact, and they're locked together. Stevens spins the car to the inside, a half spin, which allows Menno Clont to get involved. They're 3 wide, and there's more contact, and Clont's going to spin straight back into the pack, and he's backwards. So Menno Clont gets involved, facing backwards now in the chicane, rejoins the road. I think that was with Erkan and Prop in all of that. Krop now P8, just ahead of Owen McGorgy, is up to P9 already from 18th on the grid. Amazing start. He's ahead of his teammate and everything. Owen McGorgy is a real contender in this race. Keep an eye on him for a podium maybe. Up 9 positions from his starting place. And there's someone in the wall in the background. Someone hit the wall in the background. And that, well, Kardash is slow out of the corner, but it was Bugdaichi. No! So Bugdaichi again on his GPVWC debut, his FS1 debut anyway, has had yet another incident. It looks as if, okay, so Kardash lost control in front of him, and then Bugdaichi lost control while trying to slow down to avoid him, got hit from behind. God, he's had an awful day. Talking of awful days, Tom Stevens losing out, and he has lost out. Now Krop's gone past both of them, so Stevens goes down into, or was down into 10th position, but he's now up into 9th again. Yeah, so Krop was held out to dry there. McGorgy weaving, obviously showing his disappointment at something that just happened. I think we'll have to have a replay of all of that. But Owen McGorgy is now ahead of both of the Nocturne drivers on lap 2 of this race. Well, here we see a replay. Tom Stevens now side by side with, this is a lap ago, this is with Andre when these two locked wheels. There it is. Around he went. Rejoined the race, and that's one of the reasons that McGorgy's now ahead of him. There's Krop trying to make it 3 wide. They were already having a collision ahead of him, and he ended up getting off scot-free as a result of that. Lexo seems to have got a little held up in all of that as well. Dramatic stuff on the opening lap here in FS1. Now Watson's already broken clear of Mounier, and that's important because DRS will be active as of this lap. So Watson has a second advantage Then Mounier and Lucchini behind. In fact, Mounier, Lucchini and Hamming separated by about a second. Now the DRS flap opens for the first time in the race. We're watching Arda Erkan on these soft tyres. I don't think he's going to be as much of a player, as much of a factor in this race as he looks like he is right now, although he can definitely throw a spanner in the works while he's up here. Ragosa taking a look at Lexo, and in the background, two of the Santon cars going at it as well. Into the middle part of the circuit they go. So, Mounier, vulnerable to Lucchini. We saw how quick Lucchini was in race 1. Okay, Lucchini also has to be wary of Frank Hamming. Jake Dennehan is P5 in this race. He has his teammate right behind him, and his teammate's acting as a bit of a rear gunner, fending off Arda Erkan, as we saw a few seconds ago. Here's Jake Dennehan, the race 1 winner, who dominated the race, and still stands. And Heiler's had an incident, I think, because he suddenly started to drop down the order. He's in an escape road, so he is gone, and he's out of the race, as I'm afraid is Damien Kardash, so we'll catch that in a bit. But yes, here's a replay. It looks as if he's just going to go straight on at this next corner and retire from proceedings. There he goes, way too late, and decides to call it a day. Potentially lost the engine. Now, Damien Kardash's retirement is also interesting. He was the driver who spun coming out the final corner, and he's pulled off the road himself, actually. It doesn't appear to have been an accident that did him in. He has also called it a day after that spin. Maybe just the handling was not to his liking. And there's the train of cars for second. There's Mounier, Lucchini, Hamming and Dennehan. Nice to have it visualized like that rather than just looking at the gaps. Not too far behind Watson, although they are out of DRS range, which is why I'm saying that Mounier is vulnerable. And I will definitely be keeping a full eye on that little battle that's going on there for P2. Already nearly a quarter of the way through this race, Darius Andre has the fastest lap so far. Do you get a point for fast lap in race 2 as well? I think you do, don't you? Or is it just race 1 maybe? Anyway. Down towards the third sector of this particular lap. Dennehan looking so racy. I would be surprised if he doesn't end up on the podium here in this race. Under the grandstand, out towards the final few corners. And once again, Jake Dennehan all over the back of Frank Hamming's car. This is a DRS zone here. Not normally an overtaking zone though. The straight is just too short, and you're too unsettled by the turbulent air in the previous corner, as Andre once again improves his lap time in his bid to fend off the also very quick Arda Erkan. Now we get to the real overtaking opportunity of the lap. The next corner has quite a heavy braking zone here, so if you can slipstream your opponent down this straight, you can potentially launch a move. The only difficulty is there's a little kink in it, which can slow you down. Ragosa also not able to get past Lexo. And there's Fabien Ballet, P15, after just missing out on points in race 1. Car squirming over the curbs. Lucchini's car seemed to bounce a little further than Hamming's. Hamming maybe lined the corner up a little more to his liking than Lucchini would have done. And look how close everyone is on the exit of that corner now. And there's a move potentially. Hamming leaves it late. Oh, Lucchini left the door open. And they stay single file. Dennehan with a more attacking line. Faster on the exits here. although took too much curb potentially. Out of the tunnel, big slide from Frank Hamming. Hamming had a big twitch through there. Denahan's right on him. But I think Hamming got the better exit to the final turn there. Down towards turn 1. This is a real scrap for honours, as we are now over a quarter of the way through this race. And car number 23 is still all over the back of car number 73. Another DRS straight, but it doesn't look as if there's going to be a change here. Andre and Erkan are now up in the mix as well. Tell you what, Erkan was one of the drivers who extended his stint in the first race for longer than a lot of the other drivers. I would still be surprised to see him go the whole way on softs, and if he does, I'd be surprised to see him competitive the whole way. But anyway, you can't necessarily write him off. This is a GPVWC sprint race. Out of the Anderson Bridge hairpin. Down the straight. Surely someone's going to go for it this lap. They're just as compacted as they were a lap ago. But not this time. Still plenty of time left to go in the race though. We're not even half the way through just yet. Watson's gap for the lead is almost 2 seconds now. He is still extending it. Which may be important because there's a lot of quick drivers trying to come through the field. And if they do manage to do so, they could be right on him. There was a brief yellow flag, but it looks as if there aren't any wings missing or anything, so maybe just someone going down an escape road further down the order or something like that. Ooh, Lucchini lost a little bit of time there. Had a little bit of a twitch through the first chicane of the lap. I'm surprised that Hamming wasn't quite there to attack. Meanwhile, Remco de Joux has got up to 15th place ahead of Fabien Ballet. Sparks flying down the straight. You can see them so well in the night here at Singapore. It's one of the reasons that titanium skid plates were added back to Formula 1 a few years ago, because they wanted to see the sparks fly at the night. Good decision if you ask me. It really is quite beautiful. Denahan, look at that. Gotta line him up here. There's not really any point going for a strange dive into the Anderson Bridge, because then you will be so vulnerable on the exit. I know Massa did it in 2013, but he had a much faster car than the guy he was passing. And these cars all theoretically equal. Same chassis, same engine. The only reason that we see teams and drivers, or specific teams and specific drivers, being so much faster than the others is simply because they are better. They are designing the setups better. They're suiting the track and car combinations better. Everything else is completely equal between the different combinations. Lap 8. Well, we'll be on lap 9 now. Sorry, no, it is lap 8. Still losing track of where the leader is in this race, but at least the leader is a lot closer to the pack than Jake Denahan was for the majority of race 1. Little touch of the wall there for Darius Andre. Who's that getting involved? That's Owen McGorgy now catching this bunch. Imagine now if Owen McGorgy could come up to this DRS train and start passing people. That would really trigger some more sparks in a metaphorical way. It would really set things off in this race. He's going to be feeling like a hunter right now. And that's a very good feeling when it comes to racing. The championship may be slipping away from him, unfortunately, because with Stevens' podium in race 1 and McGorky's failure to score points, the points difference between them will be over a round's worth, so not even one race, but one whole round of racing in GPVWC. Even though it's mathematically still open, it looks to me as if Tom Stevens is starting to really get away now. But if he can continue to fight, then at least he can say that he tried, and valiantly so. Stevens and McGorgy both much further down than you'd expect them to be in this race. Stevens was rather caught up in all of the opening lap shenanigans, and McGorgy wasn't, managed to get through all of the opening lap shenanigans and get up to P8 very quickly and very seemingly easily. He made it look easy anyway, but of course it would be easy for someone as fast as Owen McGorgy. Here we are, another lap in the DRS train. Another lap of attempts. Still no actual overtakes in this bunch here. And they're still not dropping that far back from Owen Watson. Amari Watson. He pulled it out to about 2 seconds, and then the gap has remained about that since then. I wonder what these drivers' mindsets are actually like right now, whether they are actually thinking every time they go into a straight, right, maybe this is my chance if I line this guy up correctly, or whether they're thinking, you know, no point losing my wings or anything now, let's bide my time until later on in the race, or wait for the guy in front of me to make a mistake. Oh, and talking of mistakes, Lucchini, big slide, and Hamming's going through now. Hamming goes through into 3rd place. So Lucchini was the driver to blink first. Frank Hamming takes the podium position away from him. It was a good save from Lucchini, who got it all crossed up. All 4 tyres sliding sideways across the ground. And Frank Hamming has now taken 3rd place in this race, and we're going to see a replay of it. Here is Lucchini from on board. Too late. Hamming goes through. And now Owen McGorgy and Erkan's in the pits. It looks as if McGorgy was passing Erkan, but that's because Erkan has come into the pit lane at the halfway distance on those soft tyres. No surprise there. Now it may look like he's lost positions and lost time in this race as a result of doing so, but it's always difficult to tell because you never know where this driver would have finished if he'd gone for a standard strategy. I think he would have been slightly further up than this, but then again, there's still plenty of time in this race where he can make up positions now. Still, it looks as if he's going to be scrapping for the lower points paying positions anyway. I think he qualified 13th potentially, or at least finished 13th in race 1. Could have been 12th. Doesn't really matter where the drivers are running right now that matters. Right, will anything change on this lap potentially? Lucchini looked a lot closer to Hamming than Hamming was to Mounier. They've all got to get it slowed down into the corner at the right time though. They're leaving it super late. Lucchini almost touched a wall on the outside there. We're at the halfway distance in this race now. Amari Watson is leading by 2.7 seconds over Mounier, and Lucchini makes another error. And through goes Jake Dennehan. Lucchini has hit the wall, and Andre's gone through as well. He still has his front wing, does Lucchini. He's got McGorgy all over the back of him. Yeah, that's a pretty gutting error there. Just seemed to over-rotate it, used a bit of curb going into the tunnel, hit the wall pretty square on. May have got away with that damage-wise. But he has lost a couple of positions. Both of the TCS off cars have gone through. Looks like his steering's still pretty straight. That's always good to see. Might be hanging ever so slightly to the left. And McGorgy not able to challenge this time. Fabian Ballet's just come into the pits, by the way. I think he was another driver to start on the soft tyres. And here we are on board with Lucchini. as he makes another slight mistake in this race, clonks the wall. Possibly damages his car a little, not too much to take him out of the race, but he has dropped behind both of the TCS Off Racing cars now. Back out to Loic Meunier. Really, that even though we've had some good scraps, we're still not watching a fight for the lead, but oh well, you get them some days, not on others. And McGorgy and Lucchini have gone side by side. I think Lucchini must have made another mistake, because McGorgy's up his inside into the tunnel now and goes through. Daring stuff from McGorgy, but he does go through now. And I saw a brief yellow flag, so I do think that there may have been a mistake from Lucchini. Well, here it is. So McGorgy's already gone to the right-hand side there, the left-hand side, so the outside. Now he's on the inside line. They lock wheels slightly. Okay, I don't think that's what the yellow flag was for. That was really good racecraft by Owen McGorgy there. Lined him up several corners in advance and didn't give up even when the track got tighter. And he's really made it work. And here comes Jake Dennehan and Frank Hamming. They're both going past Meunier, are they? Well, Hamming goes through. Does he make it into the corner? He does. So Hamming stays within the line. Here comes Dennehan. And wide goes Meunier. Dennehan will be on the outside line now. He's on the outside through turn 9. Lines it up for the inside for the exit. And through he goes. Meunier decides not to fight it. Hamming is second. Dennehan third. Meunier down to fourth. I knew Dennehan would end up on the podium eventually. Can he get second? Ooh, a bit of a slide from Darius Andre there. By the way, the yellow was caused by Gerard Battalla, who's lost his front wing, and he's now come into the pit lane. Seemed to have happened quite early in the lap as well, which has got to hurt. It was down at turn 10, respun it, and then, oh no, actually hit the wall while trying to rejoin the circuit and lost his wing. That's embarrassing. Here's Tom Stevens, championship leader, who will have extended his lead even more so today. Arda Erkan has the fastest lap of the race, no surprise there, having pitted for fresh, soft tyres. And there is Jake Dennehan, who surely could be the fastest car on the circuit if he was given some clean air. More yellows out there somewhere. All of the leaders still in one piece. And here comes Dennehan. He's lined up Frank Hamming. He's going to snatch the 1-2 away from HGP, is he? Not quite. Oh, and into the wall. Into the wall goes Hamming, who left the braking too late, and he's lost his front wing. Frank Hamming has lost his front wing. Meunier goes back up into the podium places. Hamming was too eager to hold on to that position there. And there goes the HGP 1-2. And he's going to have to limp it back to the pits now, hopefully keeping out of people's way. And here's a replay of that. Whatever the case, that does mean that Jake Dennehan is now in second position. 7 laps to go. He's got 3.5 seconds to gain on Amari Watson. Can he do it? Judging by his race 1 pace, yes. But remember, it's so difficult to pass here. Hamming still dropping places, as he will do, until he comes out of the pits again. Disappointing stuff. He'd done so well. Talking of disappointing stuff, I'm afraid Stephen Lexo has not made up any places since the opening few laps where he was hampered in those incidents. It always seems to be that the driver who, and look at this, sorry, McCorkey almost lining up Andre before. Oh! And Andre leaving his braking way too late in defence, and McCorkey's going to claim that place. So Owen McGorky going through at a part of the circuit where you very rarely see overtakes. That's why I wasn't reacting to it much, because normally if someone does go for a move into there, you don't really have to pay much notice to it, but Andre paid notice to it, too much so in fact. There's a front wing there by the side of the road, I think. Tom Stevens now to the inside of Lucchini. Whoa, careful guys. And yes, that wing was from Rafał Lukaszewski, who appears to have lost both his front and rear and has now hit the wall again while trying to return to the pits. So here it is, McGorky gets a much better exit to that corner. Andre goes defensive. Oh, and very nearly hits Mounier. Lukaszewski's now pulled off to the side of the road. I think he's going to be out of the race, and he is. And something's changed. McGorky's up to third. McGorky has passed Mounier and he's on the podium. Oh, McGorky, what a drive this has been from 18th place on the grid. Oh, and there's a little touch. And more contact there, more slight contact. Oh, close between... And whose front wing's that? Was that one of the two ahead? There's more contact and it's Mounier. Mounier's lost his front wing. It looked as if the two were touching going into that sector. And Loic Mounier, who was heading for his first FS1 podium, is unfortunately going to come away with nothing here. I think it happened a little bit later on in the lap than this. There's where they passed Lukaszewski's stranded car. And that is very disappointing stuff, I'm afraid. So here we go then. What did happen to Loic Mounier in the end? Was Andre's gone for the move there. That wasn't what did it though. They got away with that. Is it into the tunnel? Oh, did he get hit from behind? Yes. Oh, Andre's rugby tackled him. Wrong sport for that, mate. Okay, back to the leaders. Denahan's gap to Watson is now 1 second. He has been absolutely storming. Jake Denahan these last few laps, absolutely storming. Very nearly the fastest lap of the race. And he is going to challenge Amari Watson for the lead. What a performance that would be. It would be the most dominant racing that we've seen this season so far. No one has won both races except for Tom Stevens, the championship leader, who won both races at the Hungaroring. Jake Denahan could be about to change that. What are the gaps at the end of this lap? He opens the DRS. He is in DRS zone, DRS range now. And he sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:46.903. And there's traffic coming up now. It's just one car, so hopefully they'll be able to get out of the way quickly. It's Jared Batalla, who lost his front wing earlier on. 20 cars remaining in this race. Lukaszewski, Hylo, Kardash and Bugdaichi are the retirements. And then, of course, Raboli decided not to start this second race. There's Stevens fighting with Lucchini further back. Hope Lucchini has learnt from his earlier mistakes, because it would make it a much more interesting fight if he held position for the time being. No disrespect to Tom Stevens, of course. Watson actually has DRS from that back marker now, heading on to the straight just after the Anderson Bridge. There's Hamming. Hamming getting past Remco de Joux after exiting the pit lane. And that took away a chance for Jake Denahan to pass Amari Watson on that last lap. And just as de Joux's been passed, he's had a little spin or something, I think. because there was a yellow and then he was moving rather slowly when we switched to him with the camera. Out through the final corner. We're in the final quarter of this race, just as we are in the final quarter of this season. And if Jake Dennehan keeps driving like this, he could still be a championship contender. It's unlikely, but he could. Slipstreaming towards turn 4. What's his exit like? That's not going to be an overtake. Does have the DRS open though. Getting closer. Jake is so confident in his car today. He is doing stuff out there that no one else has been able to do. And lap times that no one else has been able to do in the races. Except Owen McGorgy, who's now set the first lap of the race. Oh, and it's just been beaten again by Loic Mounier. Mounier after his stop. And he's still in the points actually. Mounier P15. Not bad. Onto the Anderson Bridge. I think we might have a change for the lead potentially. Take a look at the leaders. Dennehan's lining him up. Ooh, very nearly got him. Showed himself to the mirrors of Amari Watson's car. Didn't dive it though. Neither does Stevens further back. Ada Erkan meanwhile, passing Stavros Musaidis. There they are. Nearly banging wheels through that sector. P11. And Erkan has the fresher tyres, so probably... Oh, he's going to have to wait. Probably will be able to come out on top out of these two. Fresher and softer tyres. Always a good combination. 3 laps to go, including this one. Oh, and they touch! The leaders touched there because Watson was slightly wide into the corner. Dennehan slowed. Can he line him up now? I think he might just about be close enough, maybe. Watch the slipstream, watch the change, the difference in speed. Oh, he was so close. So close. Stevens now, talking of so close, look at that. Going through on Lucchini. Nicely done. Tom Stevens goes up into 5th position and through goes Moritz Kropp. Lucchini still on the inside. Kropp has gone through. Well done. Good opportunistic driving to follow his teammate through there. And once again, there's Erkan versus Musaidis. Bit of a twitch. Won't be able to get him into that section of the course. Nor this one. This is probably the section that I think is the strictly single file bit of the track. Not that it stopped Owen McGorgy earlier on, goodness me. Talking of Owen, he is 3.8 seconds behind these two, but still running in that 3rd position. We're going to have 2 more tours around the circuit now. Can Amari Watson hold off Jake Dennehan? Does he have the grunt? Does he have the grip? This is where they touched slightly a lap ago. Dennehan's got to line him up out of one of these corners before DRS zones. Possibly a little twitchy. He's a little closer than he was that last lap, actually. Here he comes then, Jake Dennehan to the outside. But that was speculative. What about this corner now? We have another braking zone. Again, pretty speculative. Dennehan did well not to run into the back of him. Fastest lap for Frank Hamming. Here comes Kropp. In fact, Stevens has just passed Andre, so Stevens is up to P4. The Nocturne driver is going very well in the late stages of this race now. Stevens P4. Onto the Anderson Bridge go the leaders. They're going to have one more lap after this. Because Denahan's not going to be able to get him on this lap. Krop's getting Andre. Oh, there's contact! They touched! Andre's lost his front wing. Darius Andre has lost his front wing and will not be able to finish in the top 5 here. He's gone back past Krop in the straight line, but he's going to have to give it up now because he's got no front downforce. Oh, it looks like Krop just lost control in the braking zone and went straight back across the front of Andre's car. Final lap now for the leaders. Let's watch this replay of what happened with Krop. Watch this. Oh dear. Slides it into the side of Darius Andre's car. I'm afraid Krop hasn't been the most collected of drivers today. He's a very good driver, don't get me wrong. Nothing against Moritz himself, but this has not been his best day as far as racecraft has gone. So here we go then. The gap coming out that corner about 4/10. I don't think Denahan's going to get it here. It's going to have to be down to the Anderson Bridge. He's close though. Made Watson think about it. Made Murray think about the fact he was there. Andre's not pitting, by the way. Andre's going to do the last lap without his front wing. You're not really supposed to do that, but anyway. Onto the Anderson Bridge. Watson going for an alternative line to try to stay ahead of Jake Denahan. Denahan opens the rear wing. They're very close here. They're within 0.3 of a second. Jake not quite close enough to go for it. I think Watson's got this in the bag now. I don't think Denahan's going to be able to do a last-minute dive bomb. If he did, it would be so tense. But I think that's it. Denahan with a little slide. Amari Watson has held him off so well in this race. So well. Denahan is desperate, but it's all going to be for naught. Nearly cutting corners. And out to the final corner they go. And Amari Watson has held off the relentless challenge. Great win there for Amari. Fantastic stuff. He wins ahead of Jake Denahan and Owen McGorgy, who climbed up 15 positions from his starting place. What a drive from Owen there. That was Amari's first win of the season, by the way. Congratulations to Amari Watson. So third was McGorgy, then it was Tom Stevens, Moritz Krop, Mercury Lucchini, Alexander Ragosa, Stephen Lexo, Federico Russo, Frank Hamming, Darius Andre, who hits the wall, so it's going to be Erkan P11. Andre is going to finish 12th without his front wing. Oh, he might be passed again here. No, Mounier not quite able to get him. So Andre P12, Mounier P13, and then it's Stavros Musadis, Menno Klont, and those are the last few points paying positions. And outside of the points were Remco de Joux, Fabian Ballet versus Miram Vincent Gutt, and then the retirements, Jared Batala, Rafał Lukaszewski, Maciej Heiler, Damien Kardash, and Errol Budeci. Now here's what happened on the last lap. This was the fight between Musadis, Erkan, and Andre. Oh, Musadis got tipped! No! So Musadis got tipped into a spin by Erkan. And that is why Musadis ended up finishing behind Andre and Mounier. Got it. Wow. This has been a very long day of racing. I hope that we get drivers into the interview room. I didn't last time I was doing Super League broadcasts. But I hope there are people still alive enough after that to join us. As we have some extremely messy donuts going on in the runoff area, but that's the beauty of sim racing. No one gets hurt. No one has to pay anything for the damage. But there you see the finishing result. Fantastic job from Amari Watson there. Let's first of all speak to our third place finisher from race 2 there, Owen McGorgy. Owen, do you hear me all right?
Yes, I do.
Good. So let's start, unfortunately, with race 1. You must be fuming.
Yeah, a bit. It's unfortunate, to say the least. But by taking me out, Amari got reverse grid pole, which is good, and he won. And I'm so happy for him. He's a big help, and we practice together. I think everyone knows that already. And I was really rooting for him. I was more focused on his race than my race at the end there, but my tires were gone anyway, so I wasn't going to catch them. And well, yeah,
That's
it
very
was
mature of you,
yeah.
actually, because it's not every day you get taken out in the pit lane. Um, so race two through the field, up 9 places on the first lap there. It must have been like the parting of the seas when everyone spun off in front of you.
Yeah, it was fun. I especially enjoyed sending Moritz to the shops twice in 2 corners. That was amazing. I don't know if it was caught on the stream, but I was a bit happy after that and did a bit of weaving on the straight in
Oh
celebration.
yes, we did see that. We did see that.
I hope that may have got under their skins a little bit, but I feel like I'm out the championship now, and yeah, it's quite a while to Thomas, probably about what 55 points, 56, 57.
Yeah.
I it's a shame, but it is what it is.
It is what it is indeed, and we still have 3 rounds to go in the championship. Even though the championship is looking less likely to have a fight that goes to the end now, at least you're still giving it your best go. And that race there was gutsy. How did it feel from your point of view to be driving like that? Do you think you got the most out of it that you could have done?
I don't think I got the most out of it because there were some laps where I was pushing too hard and killing the rear tires, and that kind of hurt me towards the end. But if I had known that they would be holding each other up by like a second a lap when I was catching the train, when I was like P8 or something, I would have done it differently, obviously. But I can't look into the future, can I? But yeah, it was tricky at the end with the tires, especially while focusing on Mari's race as well. I almost lost it a couple of times, but it was fine. I'd like to say I had it under control, but not really.
Fair enough, and great job there. Fantastic 3rd place in race 2. Commiserations around race 1. I really think you would have had a double podium there.
Yeah, thank you. And shout out to Tom Ely again. Happy birthday.
Okay, very nice. Okay, who should we bring in next up? Do we have another of our podium finishers? I don't think we do, actually. So we'll speak to one of our team bosses, maybe. Well, since we've just spoken to Owen, let's speak to Josh Downard from Nova and MDR. Josh, how did you feel about today?
Well, sort of mixed emotions, really, as it seems to be the case at the moment. Yeah, obviously race 1. Well, Stephen did a good job. Obviously, a bit of an error at the pits. We were wanting to go for a 1 stop, but unfortunately, he just went on to a soft, so you had to go to a 2 stop. But yeah, like you were saying in the commentary, I think it was only really 1 extra place we could have got with that. And then with Owen, obviously, kind of no fault of his own, getting hit in the pit lane, but he did well to keep it in the race, get in 18th, and then obviously race 2 to go from 18th to 3rd was pretty incredible. So happy with that. And then with Stephen, was sort of the opposite, where his start of the race was obviously not so great, but then he did well just to keep going and get it to the end. The tyre wear was obviously very difficult, as it was for everyone. But yeah, so bit of a mixed round, but still kind of happy.
That's true. And what's it like when? Because I know, so Owen and Amari, for example, Amari are good friends, and they've raced together and they've practiced together. And of course, HGP and Nova are quite closely affiliated in that. What does it feel like when a friend of the team, so to speak, is the driver who's involved in an accident with your driver who was running in 2nd place? That's got to be a bag of mixed emotions, right?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, the initial reaction was just sort of like, "Oh my god, what was that?" type thing.
Yeah.
But obviously, we know it. It's Amari. He's a good guy. Obviously, well, 1 race 2 did really well. So I want to congratulate him on that as well. So it's obviously mistakes happen for everyone. We're obviously it's annoying for Owen's race, but we know that obviously Amari had no kind of bad intentions, I'm sure. So yeah, tough to take, but mistakes happen. So can't get too annoyed.
Indeed. Well, thank you for speaking to us, and good luck in your future races.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. We now can speak to one of our podium finishers. Let's speak to Tom Stevens, who was second in race 1 and 4th, I think, in race 2. Is that right, Tom?
Yes, it is. Hello.
Very nice. Hello, Tom. Yes. So first of all, race 1. You jumped quite a few cars in the pit lane there. You and Moritz as a unit, and ended up second when it all shook out. How did that work out?
Yeah, well, for this round, we didn't really have much prep beforehand, so immediately in qualifying, we knew that we were on the back foot. And if I'm honest, we didn't even really have a setup sorted until yesterday, where Tom Ely swooped in and did his magic. So really big thanks to him, and it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Tom. But anyway, in the race, we're starting 4th and 5th, and the idea of Moritz was to try and trigger people to pit, but Darius pit anyway, so Moritz went really short. And then the goal for me was to keep the tyres in check and go as long as I could to avoid the traffic on the exit. And I guess it worked out because I came out behind, well, quite far behind Jake, but behind Jake, just ahead of Darius. So I was in sort of perfect position. But yeah, it sort of turned out all right today from the amount of prep we had.
Indeed. Yeah, so P2 in race 1. Race 2 kind of started a bit awkwardly, but you made it work in the end, P4. Not bad, and a very big points haul, eh?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with that, especially at a track like Singapore, because it is one of the hardest tracks on the calendar, and it's one of the, well, it's the longest of the season as well, so yeah, it's a very hard track to get right and nail, especially in both races. So to come away with it, even with some bumps in the second race, with 2 decent results. So yeah, I'm really happy with that.
And so you should be. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Tom. And yeah, good luck in your next few races.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I know we have a lot of people in the interview room, but unfortunately we don't get time to speak to all of them. Last but not least, I would like to speak to Loic Mounier here. Loic, hello, how are you?
Hello, guys. I am sweating. It's too hot here.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Loic, this was your FS1 debut, and I know that it may not have gone exactly how you would have liked it to in the end, but I mean, you've got to be able to take some positives from this, eh? I mean, a top 5 finish in race 1 is very impressive. Sorry, top 6 in race 1 is very impressive. And then, of course, you very nearly finished on the podium in race 2. Obviously, didn't quite finish how you wanted it to, but how are you feeling as a whole?
Surprisingly positive about this race. Didn't have much time to prepare let alone like get used to the car, because I only supposed to be a reservist in FS2 to begin with. So I was like, maybe the FS1 car is fun to drive, and being half safe and half consistent on my practice, I was like, maybe I can give it a go in the race without killing anyone. Very far off, Mr. Denhan, one of my friends. My salute here. Absolute murderer on track.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, did the best with what I had. P6 on race 1 was honestly the best I could have. I'm pretty happy with it. And race 2, well, just I guess I need to not brake going in a tunnel, or avoid people, but I don't know. Some bad fortune on my end.
Now, look, you've driven for 5 teams already this season in 2 different categories. Where are we likely to see you pop up next?
I just ask people if they have a seat and I jump in.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Maybe I can have the record for the most amount of teams in a season. What's the current one? I can do
I
that.
don't know, but you're certainly heading for it.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you very much for speaking to us, Loic, and congratulations on a strong showing on your race debut here.
Thank you for the broadcast.
No problem. Okay, that's all we have time for today. Unfortunately, neither of our race winners came to join us, which is a shame. But anyway, thank you all for watching today, and thank you to everyone that I just interviewed. Thank you as well to Szymon Frelik for providing the cameras and the broadcast that you've seen, and thank you to GPVWC for always putting on a show. We are going to be back in 2 weeks' time for the Japanese round of Formula Sprint 1. But in the meantime, next week on Tuesday and Thursday, you can watch the Super Lights and Super League Championship, or Super League Lights and then Super League Championship. And those are both also going to be at the Singapore Marina Bay circuit, because that's how things work around here. Until then, it's good night, and I will see you later. Bye.